is not here. Mr. Gratz is appearing remotely because of his illness. I'm going to ask everybody to stand and say the pledge.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business tonight will be old business. It'll be the follow-up on last week's meeting regarding the general fund, the capital reserve fund, and I guess the LF library fund? Liquid fuels fund. Liquid fuels fund. Are there any questions? You've had a week to study it. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we're going to move forward to the balance of our budget funds tonight. First item on the agenda is the health and sanitation fund.
And similar to the last presentation, we'll have a quick PowerPoint go over some of the highlights and then we'll take questions, but trying to call out everything that is different for all of you. So health and sanitation fund, a couple of line items have increased revenue because the new agreement that we entered into with the city of Bethlehem for intermunicipal revenue, they have upped the compost cards from 15 to 20. We adjusted the revenue to $820. Recycling revenue, we're still selling the new carts, 35-gallon recycling carts, which we're going to extensively advertise after leaf season, since our public works folks have to assemble them. So it is a little bit time consuming, but we'll get them all assembled and out to the folks who want them. It was offset by a grant, so they are still continuing to be sold by $10 a piece for a total of $450. The 902 recycling grant, which is what we were able to purchase the carts under, we can only do that every 2 years, so we're not going to be able to claim any grant revenue for 2023. However, we'll apply for it in 2023 and hopefully have that dispersed in 2024. Computerization has increased because we've offset some of the Nixle notification software with health and sanitation, which will help us notify residents when recycling or trash has been missed or delayed via inclement weather or holidays. So we're encumbering some of that cost under this, and 25% of the mapping software, which we did last year, because we track the missed trash and recycling through our little web portal, is part of the ESRI mapping software. It allows us to plot all the missed pickups, which actually has resulted in so far a decrease. So fingers crossed that continues, but Republic has been better as of late, and I hope all of you are experiencing the same reduction in complaints as we are. All right, moving on. First, any questions on health and sanitation?
Hearing none, let's move to the sewer fund. And I think for the benefit of the audience, there's no sewer, there's no garbage fee increase contemplated.
That is correct, sir. And we will have to have discussions in 2023 because we have 2 one-year extensions that are coming up. So more to come on that, but for 2023, there is no fee increase.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move on to the sewer fund.
Sure. Sewer fund highlights. So Salisbury, based on the settlement we were able to broker with transmission charges, has gone from $800 a quarter to $1,700 a quarter after settling that litigation. So that's a total of $6,800 in that revenue item. Same thing, we've split the Nixle notification software, which is, again, text, email, and voice, along across the sewer fund. If we have any sewer issues, we'll be able to use it. And the ESRI mapping software allows us to electronically map all of our sewer manholes, sewer lines, outfalls, etc. So That has worked out well for us, and so that line item is increasing with the Nixle to $1,200 or $1,204 rather. And then the engineering services have decreased. Last year was the big cost with cameraing the sewer system. I would say 2023 would be the year that we're going to compile all of that data, which is a robust database, and decide what type of plan we need for rehab moving forward and what could potentially be a PennVest ask. So the $10,000 there in engineering costs is probably a very high estimate, but those add up quickly. But that'll be using our engineers to go through the data and determine our video project, or what the results of our video project are, and what we want to look at moving forward.
Are there any questions? I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say the $1,000 for the Broadway sewer is the metering pit. It was supposed to be done this year. Bethlehem got very high bids. They're pushing it off till the spring of next year.
Are there any questions about that fund or comments? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the fire, and just again, there's no increase in fees?
No, I actually have 2 more slides to just kind of give you an
Oh, I'm
idea of
sorry.
where we're at with a couple of sewer fund things. But yes, no increase in fees at all.
Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off.
So for legal services, the solicitor charges for lien filing and collection efforts, we're anticipating $28,000. If you look at our delinquent balances over the last 3 years, you will see there's a steady decrease, which is a trend I like to see. So our efforts are fruitful. We're working towards getting folks caught up. We're doing that, I think, in a very fair manner, except for our most egregious offenders. And then we may have to take those steps that Capital Council has authorized for sheriff sales. But at this point, we're working on settlements for everybody, and you see that number steadily decreasing in the amount of the balance, and that is definitely a positive trend. So hats off to Norris McLaughlin and also Ms. Boges for her work on this.
And I want to point out a couple of things. Sheriff sales are only a last resort. We will work with the residents. We will try to bend over backwards for the residents to work with them. The sales are only the last resort, and the legal fees are all passed on as part of the collection process, correct?
Yes.
That is correct.
So even though the legal fees are up, they're not, in the final analysis, they're not ultimately going to cost anything. All right.
Correct. The only time we incur those is if we settle and cut some of those, which obviously still we went out at the end because we're collecting a delinquent balance, but that's just what we're anticipating as an expenditure item for this year.
All right, and are there any questions about the sewer fund? Or comments? Hearing none, let's move on to the fire fund.
Well, you got one more yet. 2 more slides.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I keep thinking you're.
That's all right. It's awkward when we're remote. So this slide shows your treatment charge history for the last 4 years. 2022, the fourth quarter is an average based off the previous 3. I don't like that upward tick back. However, the overwhelming trend is down. I think some of that has to do with our aggressive sewer lateral inspection program. Some of that has to do with correcting sewer issues that we're finding where you're having inflow and infiltration. But you're going to have those ebbs and flows with the amount of rainfall, and until we do a total sewer rehab at some point, I don't know that we're going to see a real drastic flat increase. I'll also caveat this as the current nozzle measuring system in the metering pit has a high-end limitation. If it overwhelms the nozzle, it flows into an overflow and it's not calculated. So there are days where there are heavy rainfall, heavy flow, and we max out the metering capabilities of the nozzle. The upgrade will put a flume in place that will give a much more accurate reading to a much higher volume. So there stands a chance, probably a very good chance next year that this number is going to go up. And that's not because of any change in volume, but rather better metering technology that Bethlehem is putting in place. So we might have to restart this trend. We just have to look at it, as an objective baseline. But the reason we show this is, why we're trying to control that inflow and infiltration, and also why we have that sewer lateral program that sometimes could be a bit of a, pain for folks trying to sell their houses. That, I think, is all I have for the sewer fund now, for real.
Any questions on that last comment or concern? All right, let's move on to the fire fund.
Eric, before you start, I have to make a correction which Jamie Johnson pointed out. I made an error when calculating the over-under budget 22. My formula is off, so disregard that column. That I made a calculation error. So, but
Which one? On this slide?
no, not on the slide, but on the detail worksheets that everybody has. I made an error there.
What's the account number again?
Yeah, where was it?
It's the whole over
No,
under
it's not.
budget column is off
Yeah, it's the 22 over under column.
for the fire fund.
Fire.
Oh, fire, okay.
So disregard that column. I recalculated it, but it does not affect our discussion for the 23 budget.
Okay, and the fire fund is funded by the fire tax, which we've been imposing since around 2003, 2004, somewhere in there, I believe.
Yep. Yes.
All right, so what's going on there?
So a couple of things this year: sale of the old pickup truck, $2,000. What we're guessing, it's pretty old. We'll see how we end up. Actually, it's not a pickup truck. I'm sorry, it's the SUV. Purchase of a new pickup truck, which we talked about in the capital plan. That was supposed to be done in 2022. Ford was so kind to cancel our order and not honor our price. So that's now $72,000 this year. The fund balance estimated at the end of this year is $263,000, so we have enough to certainly cover that. And the thing we're looking at for a future capital expense is the ladder truck. It's at its 25 years of quote-unquote recommended life per NFPA, and that will be at 2029. And you're conservatively looking at that time 1.2 million, if not a little bit more. So again, just something, we're way down the road from that. It does not have a typical heavy use. Obviously, mileage is fairly low here. Our call volume is not bad in the city. So we should have no issue getting to 2029, but I mean, we really need to start planning for that in the future if we do want to replace that with another ladder truck. So those are the things with the fire fund. It's solvent. It's meeting our needs right now, and that's our next future cost to replace the engine.
And for the benefit of the audience and the people listening on the stream, the fire tax was originally passed to help fund the fire trucks, as opposed to having a community fundraiser as they've done in the past. Although I believe it was this year, it might have been last, the council changed the ordinance to allow anything for fire to be bought with the fire tax, not just the trucks. Any questions about the fire fund? Any comments about the fire fund? Seeing and hearing none, there'll be the library fund is our last item of business on the budget.
All right, so this is pretty simple. $18.89 per capita is our price, confirmed for next year with the Bethlehem Area Public Library. 4832 is our population, 91,276 is our contribution. So library fund solely exists for that purpose, for Books on the Hill, and that's really what it comes down to for next year's budget.
All right, and again, for the benefit of the audience and the benefit of the people listening on the stream, I believe the fire or the library tax was imposed 2001, I believe.
No later than that.
I'm sorry?
I think it was 2004.
I thought it was before that. I thought it was 2001. I remember the Love Fest up at the school where everybody was in favor of it, including then candidate Holloman. But if that's not important, what's important is we've been a member of the library forever, and we've been funding our share through the library tax, which I don't believe there's going to be a tax increase there either. Is that correct?
There are no tax increases across the board. The only adjustments that may occur in 2023 will be for fees via the fee schedule, which will get passed by resolution in 2023, the first January meeting in 2023 rather. And those will be nominal, but it's just to kind of adjust, start stuff in line with industry standards. But none of the taxes for 2023 are proposed to be increased, nor are the garbage and sewer fees.
And that is good news in considering the inflation that's going on out. All right, before we leave the budgets on the agenda, does anybody have any last comment, concern? Hearing none, there are no other council action items. We're up to privilege of the floor. Anybody in the audience wish to address a budget item discussed tonight only? Seeing and hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn, and I believe next week's meeting is being canceled as not unnecessary.
As long as you folks don't see a reason for it and we're happy with where we're at, I see no reason to have that, and then we will, well, it's not next week. So
Yeah, it was the 16th. It was the 16th.
So next week we'll have a regular council meeting, and we'll obviously have discussion on the poll at that point. If we need to make any budget adjustments, we could do it then, and/or then we could decide whether or not we're canceling the meeting before the 16th.
All right, so I will remind everybody in the audience and people listening on the stream or via the podcast that our next council meeting will be Monday night, November the 7th. That's the regular November council meeting. I would encourage people to attend. And if you can't attend in person, we're certainly online now with the stream. There being no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
That would be Ms. Johnson. Is there a second? That would be Mr. Trable. I'll have a rising vote. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for watching on the stream. And we'll see you on November the 7th.
Hope you feel better, Eric.